Hey guys, I am doing a live build for ornaments this Christmas season, starting now until November 1st, and I want you to follow along with my process that Jessie at Inner Circle Prints has taught us. Today we're going to be unpacking the key design attribute vision board, step 2 in the process, and I'm going to be talking you through everything that's going on this Canva whiteboard and how this process is going to take the guesswork out of your designing. Okay, let's start right here with an overview of the method that we are following. Step 1, we're building our high potential product list, which we did in the first YouTube video. You can go back and watch that if you haven't built your list yet. Step 2, we're building our key design attribute vision board, which is what we're walking through today. And then we'll get into the other steps in the subsequent videos. It's important that you do them in order and that you don't skip ahead to designing or to your photo templates before you build your list. Remember that your list is the research on which all of this is built. Okay, so today we're talking about key design attributes. The definition for that is KDAs are the components and elements of design that create best-selling products in your HPPT, high potential product type, equipping you with the proper understanding to design each high potential product. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your high potential product list and you're going to start opening up each individual listing for a minimum of 200. The first 200 on your list. On my Mac, I'm able to just click on it and I can see it. I don't have to click into it every time, but you may have to click into it every time. This is absolutely a manual process and it does take a lot of time to do correctly, but once you have documented your KDAs, it's really going to speed up your design process. This entire document has taken me around 5 hours to work on. I'm not completely done with it, but I'm at a place where I can build upon it now as I start designing. Okay, so step 1, you're going down for 200 and you are cataloging in your brain the design elements that make up the ornaments. Personally, on my Mac, I open up my Stickies app over here with my notes and I just start writing them down. This is not a refined list to begin with. You're literally brainstorming right here on this sheet. So this first one, for instance, I wrote 3 lines minimal serifed script serif. This one I put serif sans serif script plus watercolor elements. On the calendar I put calendar typewritten plus script, photo with faded edges, sans serif and McCanley script. This one I wrote down sparkles and stars dispersed. You've got watercolor happening here. You have a heart glyph. Here's another one high up on my list where you see stars around the edges. This one would be considered a photo ornament, and I would include the detail that there's a black fade coming in at the bottom so you can see the text. So some people, they do this in their mind's eye first. They'll just go down and look at them. Personally, I like to take notes on what I'm seeing and then go through my notes and start to pull out things that are appearing again and again. This one I would consider a watercolor element here. Here, this is line art and then heart glyphs. I'm largely only taking into account the graphic elements when I'm doing this. The fonts are an entirely other aspect that we will talk about when we get to the vision board. So you're going to do this for 200. This one I would consider minimal. Maybe I would write down a long tail script. There's the heart glyph again. This one I would consider a watercolor floral. I might write down partial wreath. And then the text being gold is significant here as well. Watercolor pets, or again a watercolor element. This one, it looks like they customize these themselves, so they'll take the dog's photo and alter it, and then a splash of watercolor behind the dog, a watercolor rainbow. So already I'm seeing a lot of minimal, a lot of watercolor, a lot of heart icons. I would consider this minimal as well, but more of like a handwritten note. Another thing I'm noting is the format of these ornaments. So there's some of them that have arched text up top and then they have the element and then they have text under it. I'm going to be documenting that as well on my vision board just so that I have options in my mind when I'm designing on what formats I could use. This one I would consider to be 4 icons down here and then a friendly script and a sans serif repeating. Okay, so once you brainstorm for a while, you jot down all of these elements that you're noticing, you're going to start seeing a lot of overlap, and it's going to be clear to you what the commonalities are inside of this product type. With our vision board, we are logging all of that, so we have a visual reference for these KDAs. So further down here, after I wrote down all of those, I compiled them into the main categories that I was seeing again and again. Now, there are some that are very representative of the entire product type, like Christmas trees, watercolor, minimal. But then there are other ones that I also saw a lot, so I ended up with 25 on my list. You don't have to have 25, but I feel like the more the better. Now, if you're getting to 50, it may be too much. You're probably going to have 10 solid ones that are the foundation of your product type, but I think it's totally fine for you to expand into some of the other detailed ones that you can then choose from when you are designing. Okay, so let's talk through these. As you see, I have put a bit of a blur over 14 through 25 just because I think it's very important that you do this process for yourself with your ornament build. You can definitely use the ones that I've put right here, but you need to know how to do this in order to be successful with every other product build that you're going to do after this one. So I don't want you to just rely on what I have considered to be my KDA list. I want you to do it for yourself. Maybe start out with these and then see if from your HPP list, if you found some other KDAs that stood out to you so that you can really feel like this is your own list. And when you start to design, your assets right here are not going to be the exact ones as anyone else's. This is also how you become an expert in the product type, is by doing this research. And like I said, this took me maybe 5 hours. The fonts took a while, but I know it takes more time on the front end. But when I go to design 200 ornaments, it's going to speed that up and save me a ton of hours. All right, so let's talk through what you guys see here. So what I did is I took each of these and then I broke it out into a little group over here. And we are on a Canva whiteboard where you can zoom in and zoom out. The first one was personalization. So I went to my HPP list and I took screenshots of good examples of personalization. You do not have to do it from your HPP list. You can go to Etsy and screenshot that way and pull them over. You just want the most representative version of this KDA so that when you're over here trying to figure out what to design, it's clear to you what personalization could possibly mean. And then down here at the bottom, I'm just writing any other supplemental notes that are going to serve me later and give me little reminders. So for this one, I put personalization is by far the top KDA. It should be used on almost every listing for ornaments. It can be a name, a custom quote, an address, anything. Moving on to rainbows. A lot of watercolor and pastels, imperfect rainbows, and then I wrote the micro markets I'm seeing it in the most. Godparent, first Christmas, girl, and teacher are the main micro markets that use them. But that doesn't mean that we can only use them for godparent, first Christmas, girl, and teacher. We'll be able to use them in other ones as well. That's just where they're the most prevalent. Number 3, I have stars and snowflakes dispersed. And remember that as long as your language makes sense to you, that's all that you need. So I know this is it's kind of weird language, but it makes sense in my head. I know what I'm looking for. Hand-drawn boho sparkles. I'm really drawn to this one, and I think this listing has done really well, and I've seen it elsewhere. So that's what I'm referring to there. Little snowflakes hand-drawn, which is like this kind. Could be in different colors like black, silver, gold, green, or red. So just reminders that when you do decide to deploy the stars and snowflakes KDA, this is just a visual reminder here of how you could do it, and then here are some notes. Watercolor icons. Most icons that are used are watercolor, not clip art, which is so true for ornaments. You're not going to see a ton of clip art that's vectorized. A lot of it is watercolor. So here I'm referring to these elements in the middle. Heart icons, Between names, a glyph, a lot as a small icon at the bottom of the ornament, especially on those thank you note ones, which I should probably put an example of that over here too. Line art, mostly used with home and apartment structures, but can be used elsewhere, like here with the dad and the baby. Note the stars and hearts coming out of the chimneys. I saw that a lot. Minimal text, handwriting plus heart. Okay, that's what we were referring to before. Or modern script and sans serif. And there I'm referring to the engaged ones by and large that have the long tail. I might put that up here. And here I'm just meaning sans serif. Minimal notes with an icon at the bottom of some sort, usually a heart. Ray done too, which is kind of like this style with that tall handwritten font. Watercolor scenes. So this is different than watercolor icons that I had up here because these are just one-off icons. These fill the space more. Scenes that fill a lot of the ornament but are created out of watercolor. Christmas trees. A ton of Christmas trees inside of the ornament product type to represent people or just as an accent. So here's an example of how they could represent people right here. Each tree is a person, and then some of these other ones, they're just decorative. This one's a little bit weird. So usually I wouldn't have this one, but I was noticing that there were a lot of penguins and hedgehogs, even if the word penguin and hedgehog was not in the title. So if it was in the title, then I would consider it like family of 3 penguin. That would be the micro market. But it was even showing up when there was no SEO for it. So for that reason, I added it here. Even if the animal isn't in the title, sometimes they use penguins and hedgehogs in watercolor to represent the people. So let's say that I'm going to go design for a family of 5. Maybe I come in here. Well, I go to incognito, see what's happening in the market. And if there's a gap with no hedgehogs with family of 5, I might go the hedgehog direction just because I know that it's shown up different times in my HPP list. Wreaths, all sorts of wreaths. There's the soft watercolor wildflower ones, which is kind of like this, and this one as 3/4 or a half wreath. Half wreath is like this one down here. It fills up half of the space and the top one. Or a full clip art. So this is clip art. This is not watercolor. This is more vectorized image. It looks more exact than the watercolor does and usually is brighter. Multiple different micro markets these wreaths could be used for. Baby's first Christmas, anniversary, a godparent ask, Santa hat. So this is one that's, it may not make, if I had a list of 10, it may not make it on there, but it made it onto this list because I saw it again and again. Put on animals, monogram, letters, words, characters. And then number 13 for photo ornaments, the photo fills the entire background or is faded speckled. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to get rid of that because actually further down on my list, I have a photo filling the entire background. So this one, we're just going to put faded speckled, this little effect that they have going on. I was seeing that again and again. And my only note was figure out how to do this because I'm going to make a tutorial on how to do that for YouTube. Okay, and then it keeps going down 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way through 25 right there. But that's the essence of how you're going to break apart the key design attributes. Okay, let's walk through what this is going to look like when we put it in action, just so that you have an idea of why we are using the KDA vision board. So I went over to Etsy incognito and I typed in coworker ornament. Let's say this is on my sprint list and I'm ready to design for it. I'm going to come over here to page 1 and see what's happening with the KDAs on page 1. So right here, we've got Christmas trees, 3 icons. We have ornaments hanging down. We've got red and green text. We have retro font color change. We've got minimal typewritten. Here we have a definition with a kind of like line art string of lights. We've got Christmas letters. I'm really just looking at page 1 to see what's happening because that's where we want to end up. So we want to stand apart from these people in a good way. So what you're going to do now is you're going to identify what are the value points. What do I have to have on my ornament? It may be this specific quote. It may be that it's personalized. Those may be the two things that I have to have, but everything else I get to determine how I want to design it. So that's when you come over here to your vision board, and these are the vetted, proven design attributes that you are certain of based on your research from your HPP list. And so when I look over here and I see what's being overdone, okay, or what's already being taken. So if someone is coming and they're looking for like hand-drawn elements and different colors, there's no reason why they should not buy this one. If they're looking for more of a retro or minimal, they've got that as well. So we're thinking, how can we do something different that we know is proven that will allow us to stand out? And so that's how you're going to come over here and you're going to look at all of your KDAs and you're going to decide, can I do the quote with a Santa hat? Can I do a wreath with the quote? Should I do Christmas tree icon? Should I do a watercolor scene? Like, what makes sense for this? This category specifically is kind of fun-loving and playful. So what makes sense with that? I'm definitely going to do the personalization. Am I going to include some other watercolor icons? Does a rainbow make sense for this? Probably not. I could do the stars dispersed. Could I have animals in it? And then you have all of these other ones down here that you would be able to choose from. So it's still going to take some creativity on your part, but you're going to have this library to choose from. And also, side note, as I start designing, let's say that I decide to do the whole stars and snowflakes dispersed. Whenever I find an element that I really like, I'm going to, of course, put it on my design that I'm making, but then I'm going to copy and paste it over here, and I'm going to have a library of elements right here that I can pull from moving forward with my designs. Okay, so if you do nothing else, this is the most important part for you to do. This is the basis of your KDA vision board. Now, I did go a step further and I started breaking apart the fonts, which is going to serve me later as well. If you go to my bio in the YouTube, if you go to the top of the YouTube channel, then you can click on a link that will give you access to this font guide that I created. So you can go grab that. And it's this right here. It's all of these fonts. I've put these together as a pack of Christmas fonts that I see a lot on ornaments. So definitely grab that. But the idea here is I went to my HPP list and I started at the top. And I started recreating these fonts, these font pairings that are doing so well for these sellers. So this one, for instance, I started with this list and I started just grabbing fonts and putting them together and trying to recreate what was happening here. Now, this is not only for engaged ornaments, this can be used for other micro markets, but I want to have a library of pairs or combination fonts that I know have sold well, so that whenever I go to launch into the coworker ornament, I can just come over here and I can say, okay, this is a friendly one. I'm going to use these fonts, and it's there ready for me to go. This top one, I was trying to decide on what serif font I wanted to put with this. So this one is OVO inside of Canva. Side note, if you're using Hello Custom, you need to make sure that whatever you have personalized is a font inside of Hello Custom, or you can download it from Creative Fabrica or online. So just note that. I landed on this one. So it's OVO inside of Canva, Gratitude, which is inside of Creative Fabrica. And I really like to use this OVO for dates. I just think it looks so classy. So I created that pairing and then just put it right there. And then I moved on to the next one on my list. First Christmas as a family of 3. So here, this is what I landed on with the sans serif, the script, and the serif. So on these, you also need to note, so this one is Recoleta. And originally, if I go to effects and put none, it was this thin, but looking at it here on the ornament, I know that it needs to be thicker. So something that I do a lot, if bold is not an option, or bold just makes it way too bold, what I will do is go to effects and splice and then change this to the same color, so black, offset 0, and then work with the thickness right here, and it gives me a lot of control over how thick it is. It's a way that you can just thicken it up a bit. And also you need to be mindful of your letter spacing. So this letter spacing is on 100, and you'll see that there's some letter spacing here. If you keep everything just normal at 0, so let's put it on 0 and let's put it on none for thickness, that just is not as good. It hits different than this one. This one's more refined because of the letter spacing and the thickness. So those little details are really going to set you apart from your competition because your designs are going to look better. Same thing for this Poppins font down here. I use Poppins a lot. It's a really great minimal sans serif. And then this middle one is Buffalo, which is such a great tried and true friendly script. On Poppins, if I go to effects, if I go to the letter spacing, it is at 73. A lot of these I'm adding letter spacing to. By and large, on the scripts, I make sure the letter spacing is always 0 because it starts to look funky if you separate it out, because it was designed to not have any letter spacing. So just make sure, as a rule of thumb, that on the scripts you keep those at 0. And then I looked at some of the calendar ones and I put together some options for those using type and script. So this one is Special Elite with McCainley with letter spacing. This one is TLWG typewriter and Buffalo. So the idea is just to work your way down your list and to start to compile winning combinations that have been proven on other ornaments from your HPP list. Let's look at a different one that I did. Here's some of the calendar ones. The married photo, so this is a sans serif with this McCainley font, which is right here. So I did the Poppins again with the letter spacing. The date is also in the same Poppins. I'm just going to walk you through some of these other ones in case you want to use them. Now, I have not exhausted everything on my list. I probably went down for like 20, but it's a good starting place for me. And then as I start designing, if I come up with a new font pairing, I will just put it in here and this will become a catalog of fonts. Side note, Canva only allows you to have 100 fonts per document. So what I had to do over here is I just took a photo of these and I pasted it in here to get rid of all of those extra fonts. But that's just a note. All right, let's walk through these so that you can have them as a reference if you need them. La Lux, so this is a first Christmas ornament. La Lux script with Poppins, Buffalo, and Hero. I really like Hero because it's a rounded font and it looks really friendly. Like by and large, the rounded ones do look friendly. Side note, if I duplicate this. Okay, so originally with Buffalo, let me zoom in on it. Originally with Buffalo, if I were to type it looks really bad. See, like, look at this apostrophe, and then the T is going into the I. So on some of these, you may have to break them apart manually. So what I did is I found an apostrophe from a different font. This was from an Oakland font. And then I pulled the T apart, I made the I by itself, and then I just placed it together and I grouped it. That's not gonna happen very often, but you are gonna have sometimes you'll run into something a little funky like that, and then you just break it apart, do it manually, and group it. Our first Christmas is grandparents, Hero and Brittany. This one was a calendar one, but it was more modern, and usually I would not put two different sans serifs together, but they were doing it, so I tried here with the Poppins and then a Grandier wide. This Oakland font, I found this on Etsy, I think. So it's not on Creative Fabrica or Canva, but it has done really well for me, and it's really good for like teacher niches. But I was looking for something that was friendly, that was handwritten, and I thought it would do well. So that's what I put here, and I have a thick effect on it with the splice. This is Justin Haley from Creative Fabrica. You're going to have to find some long tail ones with glyphs that work for you. This one I made thicker as well. So Oakland, when I tried to do the date, it did not look right. It looked a little bit too playful or too weird. So I started going through other handwritten kind of fonts that had the same vibe, and I landed on Farmhouse Pumpkin from Creative Fabrica. And then here's an alternative. This is actually what the ornament is like. They had script right here, but I didn't really love competing the script with this script, and so I ended up going with this. But I have this sunset heart right here, and again, just to note. The ampersand sign I did not like with Sunset Heart, which is from Creative Fabrica. Did not like it. And so I used a different one. This is Nick Canely. Now, the issue with this is that this is exactly what you're customizing. So inside of Canva, do you really want to be writing the names and then manually putting the other and sign every time? It is up to you. But those are the kinds of decisions that you'll have to make. And then Poppins again with Buffalo. Oakland again with Bestie Lovely from Creative Fabrica. This grandparent one had more of a classic feel, so I went with Shistella, which is from Creative Fabrica, and Ovo from Canva. Definitely with lots of letter spacing. And then I had an alternative serif font with a DM serif display from Canva. All right, let's do a couple more. Bestie Lovely from Creative Fabrica paired with the Ovo, and this would do well for baptism, christening, I think even the godparent category. And then TLWG typewriter paired with Bestie Lovely. So as you see, I'm using a lot of the same fonts and I'm just pairing them in different ways. I have all of these fonts here in the resource that you can play around with, but just note that I'm using a lot of this stuff over and over again. You figure out what works for you and then I repurpose it in different ways. Over here, this is from Creative Fabrica, Salutos. I think it's from Creative. In red, I just wanted to note that some of the KDAs you can be using a different color for it, paired with, I think this is the Seasons serif font. And here I have Bestie Lovely with TLWG typewriter again. So for these more minimal note ones, I was trying to find a font. Let me see if I can find it on my HPP list. It was a mother-in-law ornament. Okay, so here was the one I was trying to recreate. I could not find this font. So I start thinking about what describes it. It's a friendly font. It is handwritten, but it's very legible. It's not like preschool-y. So I was looking for something with that personal vibe, but that was handwritten. The closest I could find in Canva was Better Together. Actually, this might be from Creative Fabrica. And then from Creative Fabrica, Mango Delight is kind of similar with a couple extras going on there. But I really felt like this modern designer from Creative Fabrica really captured the essence, but it's in all caps. And then this one from Creative is Catherine with the R, Carthren. And I think this is really similar, but it's wider. This one is more condensed and taller. So I'm not sure what direction I'm going to go yet. I may keep trying to find this exact font. This one is just a font that I found recently that I think is awesome because it looks just like someone wrote it with a ballpoint pen. It's not proven inside of Ornament, so this is an example of, hey, I think this is a good idea, but it's probably not a good idea. And then lastly, I know I've gone over a lot, but lastly, I just wanted to mention this is not necessary, but what I am going to do is document some formats down here. And by formats, I just mean how everything is set up. So like there's text arching the graphic and then there's a name under it with a date. Or there's watercolor icons up top and then text and then more text with icons next to it. Or there's a straight line of text with a glyph with a watercolor element and then text under it. And I am grouping them kind of by category, but that doesn't mean that I couldn't pull from some of the other ones for whatever micro market I'm working in. And you don't have to do this. You can obviously just come over to your list and start looking through them. But I just wanted a visual representation of it right here so that I could come get some ideas on how I want to set things up. Because for instance, this is a little different. The text is on the side of it and then the element is more on the left. Or there's two watercolor elements and then text above and below it. So just notes about the formats that I think is going to help me when I start designing. In the next video, we're going to be doing the photo template research. So definitely stick around for that. And then we get to the nitty-gritty of planning and starting to design. I hope this was useful for you. If you have any questions, please comment and I will get you the answer.